Um, so we'll start with the virtualization of a classic data center. Okay, the networking part. Okay, we have already seen uh, virtualization of a classic data center at compute level. Then we have moved on to storage level. Now we'll move on to the network level. Okay. So in this whole module, okay, which is in the AIMS square, it is a module, okay, yeah. So we'll be covering about the network virtualization in a virtualized data center. So we'll see what are the different infrastructure and components are there. Okay, we'll discuss about VLAN. Okay, in the slides it is virtual SAN is given, but that is not a part of the syllabus. Only VLAN is required. And then we have the key network traffic management techniques, which is present in the virtualized data center. Okay. So first we'll discuss about the network virtualization in VDC. Okay. So the overview is like this. First we'll talk about what is a network virtualization. Okay. The basic definition, and by network virtualization, we are virtualizing what are the different types of networks we are going to virtualize. Okay, and if we are going to virtualize those two types of networks, what are the components which are supporting that virtualization? Okay, and finally the benefits is what we are going to see next. Right. So when you're talking about network virtualization, it's basically segmenting physical networks. Okay, segmenting a physical network which can operate as either a single or a multiple independent network. Okay, that is the virtual network. So either we want to segment it, or we finally, or sometimes we want to group it and look as if that physical network is appearing as a single or multiple independent network. Okay, that is the virtual network. Okay. So when you're talking about network virtualization, the basic important thing is the virtual network. Okay, uh, to the virtual machine. Okay, to the virtual machine, that virtual network appears as the physical network. Okay, so how does the communication happens between one VM to another VM? Okay, so uh, we can say that if between between one VM to another VM, okay, one virtual network to another virtual network. Suppose a VM one is in one virtual network and VM two is in another virtual network. So to in order to have a communication which has to exist between these two VMs, which are in two different virtual networks, okay, virtual networks. I restate why virtual networks. Routing should happen. Okay, routing should happen means the whole structure of packetization frame. Okay, so Ethernet frame has to be created, and then the routing, the packet should be transferred between two virtual networks. Okay. But if it is in the same virtual network, that is, if two VMs are in the same virtual network, that routing is not required, even if those two virtual machines are actually in different physical locations, okay, or in different physical servers, okay. So that is the main aspect of network virtualization. So I'll repeat again here that if a virtual machine or two virtual machines which wishes to communicate with each other are in two different virtual networks, they have to follow the routing process. Means they have to create Ethernet frames, and then the routing process has to happen, and then they can communicate, even if they are in the same physical network. But if the virtual machines are in the same virtual network, they need not do the routing process. Okay, even if those two virtual machines are actually in different physical location. Okay, so that much virtualization is being provided here. And also, when we're talking about network virtualization, the virtual network, it should not be one virtual network data, that is the broadcast bandwidth should not spread to another virtual network also. So that is done actually by something called as network management traffic. Okay, so the isolation of network broadcast is also one of the advantage of network virtualization that is also being managed here. Okay. Moving ahead, when you're talking about network virtualization in the virtualized data center, okay, basically it involves virtualizing two different types of networks. That is, one is the physical network, okay. Physical network basically means it interconnects physical servers, okay, physical servers which are hosting, which are having hypervisors, which are hosting virtual machines, okay. So it is basically interconnection of two physical servers, and the logical components here, or not logical, the physical components which are involved here in the physical network, okay. I in the entire session I will make use of lot amount of physical network, virtual machine, virtual switch, okay. So please see to it that the wordings, okay, the wordings are important here, okay. So the physical servers are interconnection of physical servers is called as physical network. So the components involved in such a physical network, okay, are we already know, the network adapters, switches, router, hub, all are given here, okay. So when we are talking about physical network, basically it provides interconnectivity between, obviously it provides interconnectivity between different physical servers, okay, which are actually running two different hypervisors. But also the physical network incorporates communication between the physical server and client sometimes, and also physical server and the storage system also, physical server and the storage system also. So the physical network is basically interconnection of two physical servers, okay. And the components involved here are NIC, hub, switch, repeaters, etc. So this is one of the network which will be virtualizing in the network virtualization. The other network which will virtualize here is the virtual machine network. That is VM network. Okay, VM network. So we can see here we already have the physical servers. That is outline of the physical servers, and then we have the physical network and client and storage. So this will be retained as it is. The additional things which we'll have is what is happening inside that physical server. So obviously, physical server have a hypervisor, and these hypervisors are going to host multiple virtual machines. So interconnection of these multiple virtual machines using a particular virtual network is called virtual machine network. That is network, okay. So this is basically inside a single physical server. This is basically inside a single physical server. We can see here the another physical server that is also zoomed in to show that inside what is happening. So we have a hypervisor which will host these multiple virtual machines, and these multiple virtual machines are connected together via a single virtual network that is called as virtual machine network here, VM network here, okay. Now what we see, what we can observe here is these virtual machines, okay, are interconnected with components called as virtual NIC, okay, virtual NIC. Just like how the physical servers are connected to the physical network using physical NIC, we have the virtual machine, that is the virtual systems, which are connected to the virtual machine network using VNIC, that is virtual NIC cards, okay. And we can see here this virtual machine network is in turn connected to the hypervisor kernel, okay. And this virtual machine network are actually, so we can see here that the physical NIC card is it's actually like an interlink between virtual machine network and the physical network that we can observe here, right? Okay. So this hypervisor kernel is also connected to the virtual machine network. Okay. So there is also something called as management server. Okay, management server. So hypervisor does the management. Management means whether if suppose one virtual machine has to be migrated from one physical server to another physical server. So such kind of management is done by the hypervisor kernel. So functionality of the hypervisor kernel we'll see in detail. Okay, that is also given in examples ahead. Okay. So when you're talking about network virtualization, as we told before, we are virtualizing two different types of network, that is virtual machine network and the physical network. Okay, physical network. So the virtual machine network is also that network is actually provided by the virtual switch component. Okay, virtual switch component that provides the virtual switch provides the virtual network. Okay, so that is why that virtual network is replaced by virtual switch here. Okay, VM network is replaced by virtual switch here. So it basically saying that virtual switch provides the VM network and physical switch provides the physical network. Okay, same thing it is, just we are here explicitly stating the components which are involved in the network virtualization. So we can see here, this is one single physical server, this is another single physical server, and inside and these two physical servers are interconnected using two physical switches. Okay, so this forms one physical network, and we can see here this single physical server is hosting two virtual machines. So two virtual machines, there is one virtual switch, means VM network is there, and it is connected via virtual NIC here. This is also connected via virtual NIC, and this physical server is connected to the physical network, that is physical switch, via the physical NIC. The same thing is replicated in the right hand side. So what we can see here is, when we are talking about network virtualization, it is basically virtualizing two types of network, that is virtual machine network and physical network. Okay, and by virtualization means, we can see here that though VM1 and VM3 are in two different physical servers, they belong to one particular virtual network, that is virtual network 1. And similarly, virtual machine 2 and virtual machine 4, though they are in two physical servers, they are also located inside a single virtual network, that is given by virtual network 2. So that is the virtualization here, because we are virtualizing both the virtual VM network and also the physical network also. Okay, so two types of network virtualization are there, that is virtual LAN and virtual SAN. Okay, so I think in the syllabus virtual SAN I did not see, but let me just confirm one. But virtual LAN is there, so we will see what is virtual LAN. Okay, so how does the communication happens between two different virtual machines which are connected to two different switches? Okay, two different switches. So that is the scenario here, right? Two virtual machines which are connected to two different switches, how the communication is happening. So using, and that case scenario we will see using virtual LAN. So network virtualization are of two types, that is virtual LAN and virtual SAN. Okay, so we'll see how the communication happens between these VM1 and VM3, which are connected to uh, two different switches. Okay, two different switches, but they are in the same LAN. Please note, they are in the same LAN, but they are connected to two different switches. So this case we can say that, so suppose if it's a building. Okay, so in the first floor, second floor, third floor, in each of these floors, there are each systems, okay, belonging to same department. So if they want to communicate, so initially they will be communicate. They will be connected to switch of first floor, second floor, third floor, and but how they actually communicate means, how the isolation is provided for the same department machines which can communicate. Okay, using if they're in the same VLAN, is what we will see in the future sessions. Okay, all right. Moving ahead, okay, when you're talking about network virtualization tools, okay, basically the network virtualization is performed by the hypervisor, okay, hypervisor and the physical switch operating system. The physical switch which provides the physical network, okay, its operating system also does performs the hypervisor, also performs the network virtualization. So what does it do? Okay, so physical switch will have network virtualization functionality. Means physical switch OS will have a network virtualization functionality. So that helps in creating virtual networks on the physical and VM networks. Okay. The second thing is about the hypervisor. So when you're talking about the hypervisor, usually the hypervisor has built-in network virtualization functionalities. Okay, so what happens is when it creates a virtual machine, it that we know that it already creates MAC address and IP address for each virtual machines. So for virtual switch also, it creates MAC address and IP address and configure that virtual network. Okay, so either it is pre-built. Okay, sometimes you can use a third-party software also. So in that case, that third-party software can be installed on the hypervisor, and same network virtualization functionality can be provided by the third-party software also. Okay, so we'll move ahead. The benefits of network virtualization. So when you're talking about the benefits of network virtualization, the main benefits are it enhances security. So how does it enhances the security? So as I told you in the earlier case also, suppose if it is a single LAN, and if it is a single LAN and there are two departments working on the same LAN, so how does the two LANs have a security feature? Means how their data are not leaked, okay, between the when they're sharing the LAN, okay. So network virtualization provides the security, means it restricts actually restrict access of data from one virtual network to another. Okay, so it actually is able to isolate the sensitive data from one virtual network to another. So how does that uh, what do we say, that isolation is provided, that we'll see when you're talking about VLAN. Okay, so it enhances performance. Similarly, as I say, suppose one department and there is second another department. So one department is having some broadcast information. It should make ensure that that broadcast information should not go to the another virtual network, though they are maybe in the same LAN. Okay, or they are sharing the same switch. So they should not that overlapping of broadcast information should also not go. So isolation of that broadcast information help in network performance also. That actually enables security also. Okay, so how do we do the manageability? Okay, improves manageability. So as I told you, hypervisor comes with it also has a management software. Okay, where it manages the traffic. If it is a virtual machine migration traffic, so that it handles, and if it is just a fiber channel storage access, so that hypervisor handles. But if it's just VM wants to access another VM in a different physical NS server, it will redirect the traffic directly to the physical NIC. So that manageability, grouping, regrouping, we can say zoning and masking. Okay, that is handled by the management software, which is usually installed with the hypervisor. Okay, so that actually one more thing is, as I told you, suppose in a system which is there in department 1, now it has to be migrated to department 2. So unplugging it from there and plugging it into department 2, usually when we talk about in traditional structure, it requires cabling. Okay, and there is a lot of loss. Okay, because cable has to be rewired, you cannot use it again like that. But now with network virtualization, it's just plug in like that. It's easy to do a reconfiguration of the systems. That is, system here basically means VM, from one virtual network to another virtual network. The configuration is very easy. Okay, so that is why that is why network virtualization is Yes, my call got dropped actually. Right. So, what are the two different types of networks which are virtualized? That is VM network and physical network. So, we have seen all these things in the previous lectures. So, now we'll move on and to see what are actually the different components in virtual machine network. What are the components which you are going to deal with in the physical network? What are the components which you are going to deal with? Okay. So, that we will see in the coming slide. Okay. So when you're talking about virtual machine network, the main components here are virtual NIC, virtual host-based adapter, virtual switch. Okay, so we have already seen virtual NIC and virtual switch. So I'll just mm, restate all those things. So virtual NIC is basically it connects the virtual machine. Okay, connects the virtual machine to the virtual machine network. Okay, so this we have already seen. So a virtual machine can have one or more. Okay, it can have one or more virtual NICs. Okay, so it basically whatever from the user, whatever input output traffic is going to come, that it will forward into the it will forward it via, that is the VM will forward all those input output traffic via the virtual NIC to the virtual machine network. Okay. So I'll just come to the virtual HBA after discussing virtual switch. So virtual switch is basically providing the virtual machine network. Okay. So it basically connecting different virtual machines via virtual NICs. Okay. So it is not required that every virtual NIC should be connected to every virtual NIC should be connected to virtual switch. That requirement is not there. So that scenario we will see. Okay. Okay. So this each virtual, so whatever the virtual switch which is going to create this virtual machine network, it is actually in turn connected to the our physical NIC. Okay, physical NIC, and that will be in turn connected to the physical network. So main thing which you have to see is it is going to provide the connection between virtual NIC and it is going to forward the virtual machine traffic. So this forwarding of virtual machine traffic is basically the virtual network. And sometimes there are specific connection, there are specific requirements that only the hypervisor kernel will do. Okay, like migrating one virtual machine to another one physical server to completely different physical server, so that VM migration is handled by the hypervisor kernel. One more thing is called like if there is an input output request explicitly for fiber channel storage, okay, FC storage, in that case that request will also go to hypervisor kernel. So such kind of request will go from virtual switch to hypervisor kernel, and hypervisor will kernel will direct such request to the physical NIC. Okay, so when you're talking about the virtual host based adapter here, so as I told you, so the hypervisor, if there is a input output request for accessing fiber channel storage, okay, FC storage, in that case such request is handled by hypervisor. So those cases how it is handled, or through how it is going to handle the hypervisor kernel, how it is going to handle it is go either via directly it will go give to the physical NIC, or it might give it to the virtual HBA. So we'll see that scenario. That's case by case. Each scenario is there with a beautiful diagram. Okay, so we'll see. So suppose I'll tell you again, if there is a fiber channel storage request that is actually handled by the hypervisor kernel, in such cases either the request can be given to the HBA that will be connecting another physical switch, which will be connecting with the fiber channel. RDM is raw device mapping, which we have already seen. Okay, and sometimes but some requests are just accessing the IP type storage. So IP type storage means the NAS storage system. In that case such request will go to the physical NICs. So where which transition goes to, whether it goes to HBA, whether it goes to physical NIC, we'll see in detail in the future slide. Okay, so talking about other components here is physical adapters, that is NIC, HPA, and CNA. These are basically connected to the physical servers. Okay, that is these are links of physical servers to physical networks. Okay, and basically when you're talking about they actually deal with traffic management, which is going to come from virtual machine or hypervisor. Okay, so it will forward all that to the physical network. Okay, so there is a physical switch and routers. So physical switch basically provide the physical network. Okay, physical network which connects basically the third party storage devices. It may be FC or iSCSI, okay, or NAS systems. Okay, so providing connections to the physical devices, external physical storage devices, or we can say the LUNs. Okay, is done via physical switch. Okay, so we'll see in detail the examples which I told you before. So here we can see, first I'll just explain to you what the figure is all about. So we have one physical server, we have the hypervisor kernel, we have three different virtual machines, and virtual switch is there, which is that is virtual machine which is providing virtual machine network, and VMs are connected via virtual NIC card. Okay, and this in turn is connected via physical NIC card. Okay, and see here, physical NIC is actually the link between the virtual switch and the physical switch. Okay, so this physical switch basically either connects to a different physical server or to a client or to a storage system. Now, what basic important thing is, so whatever traffic which are coming from here is VM traffic. Okay, so whatever traffic which are coming from here is called as hypervisor traffic, and that hypervisor traffic is basically either VM migration, okay, or it might be some management. Say it might be traffic management, okay, like that. So it might be a management traffic or IP storage or VM migration. So whatever be the different types of traffic types, all the traffics will come via to virtual switch. Okay, virtual switch will forward it to the physical NIC. So what we have to see here is, whenever there is an IP storage access which is initiated from the virtual machines which goes to the hypervisor kernel, okay, all such IP storage, okay, all such IP storage are going to be redirected from hypervisor kernel to the virtual switch to the physical NIC. Okay, so that is the main important thing which we have to note here. So please note, whatever the IP storage accesses, that will be coming from the physical NIC card to the physical switch. If we see in the second example here, here again it's the same figure. The only difference here is, here the traffic type in this link, that is from hypervisor kernel to virtual switch, that is basically only the, sorry, only the management type and VM migration type traffic. But if it's going to access the fiber channel type or iSCSI storage type, the hypervisor kernel will going to, we can say it is going to move or project its traffic to the host based adapters, which we have discussed before, virtual host based adapters. Okay, so we'll see that virtual host based adapters, and there was physical host based adapters. So here it is physical host based adapter. Okay, so there is a virtual host based adapter that also we'll see in detail, how, where is physical host based adapter is located, where is virtual host based adapter is located, that we'll see. But just understand, whenever there is a input output access request, okay, and that too the request is for the fiber channel storage. Okay, fiber channel storage, in that case the request will directly go from hypervisor kernel to the host based adapter, that will actually push such request directly to the fiber channel. So the involvement of physical NIC is not there. Okay, so this is the main thing about the difference of, if the access of storage is there. Okay, if it is IP storage, if it is IP storage, I'll show you the figure again. If it is IP storage, from the hypervisor kernel it will go to the virtual switch to the physical NIC card, that will handle all the IP storage requests. But if it is the storage request is for the fiber channel, okay, fiber channel or iSCSI storage type, all the requests will be pushed to the host based adapter. So host based adapter, there is physical and virtual host based adapter. So here only physical host based adapter is shown, the virtual host based adapter is there in the future slides. Okay, so that request is being served through physical switch over internet, that is fiber channel over ethernet, that is FCOE, which is connected in turn to the external fiber channel or iSCSI based storage arrays. Okay, so rest all the diagram are same. management, VM migration will go here to the physical NIC. Only the fiber channel FC storage access will go via the host based adapters. Okay. So now just see here, whenever there is an FC storage device, there has to be some delay because hypervisor has to decide if this access is IP storage or FC storage access. If it is FC storage access, it has to go via host based adapter, or else it will be moved to the virtual switch to the physical NIC. So instead of having two different types of adapters here in the physical servers, there is another adapter that is we have seen here, CNA, that is the converged network adapter. Okay, so with the converged network adapter, the advantage here is instead of so first thing is it is replacing two different having a two different adapters in the physical server. So it replaces two different adapters, and this is just one physical server. So there might be n number of physical servers. So you multiply that n number into the different numbers of adapters which you need, physical NIC or if it is FC. So instead of that, we will have a common adapter that is uh, by the name called converged network adapter. What does it do here is, so whenever there is a FC storage input output request from the hypervisor. So what does it do? The hypervisor will directly send such request to CNA, because here the CNA sees, because hypervisor interprets the converged network adapter as a host based adapter, and it also sees that it is a physical NIC also. So here, when it is only IP storage access, this CNA will act like a physical NIC. But when the from the hypervisor kernel, there is an access for a fiber channel storage access, this will see it as host based adapter. Okay, so that is the advantage of converged network adapter. So it will perform both the functionalities of accessing for IP storage and fiber channel storage. Okay, so that is the advantage here. So we'll just see once more. So we have covered NIC, host-based adapters, converged network adapters, physical switch, and routers. We have seen virtual switch, HBA, and NIC. Okay, virtual switch, HBA. Virtual HBA is not here. It's in the coming slide. And then virtual NIC. Okay. All right. So when you're talking about, now we'll discuss in detail about each of these components. Okay, each of these components in detail. Okay, so we already know that because we had to talk about virtual HBA, so we had to start talking from initial, that is NIC, then HBA, then virtual switch. Everything we'll discuss now in detail. Okay. So earlier we discussed just diagrammatically. So now we'll discuss in detail. So we have the virtual NIC. So as seen before, it basically connects virtual machines to the virtual switch. Okay. So basically, whenever it is going to connect the virtual machine to virtual switch, so it is going to forward some packets, okay, forward some data, that is input output data from a virtual machine to a virtual network. So always it is going to forward it in Ethernet frames, okay, Ethernet frame, okay. And also we have to note that each virtual machines, okay, each virtual NICs, okay, each virtual NIC have unique MAC address and IP addresses. So in the Ethernet, whenever it is going to forward it to another virtual network, okay, or another virtual machine, it will put its unique MAC address and IP addresses into that Ethernet frames. Okay, so why does it put that? We all know when you have learned computer networking in detail. Okay, so it will put these MAC address and IP address to these Ethernet frames. Okay, so also note that the hypervisor, when it is going to initiate this virtual network, okay, that is, it is going to create each virtual machine before it is powered on. It is going to create this virtual NIC, and hypervisor is going to allocate a unique MAC address and IP address to these virtual NICs, and this virtual NIC will put these MAC address and IP addresses to the Ethernet frame, which it is going to push into the virtual network, VM network. Okay. Okay, so basically, hypervisor initiates this virtual machine, and when it is initiating this virtual machine, it's going to initiate or allocate new MAC address and IP address. This is all about virtual NIC. So now we'll talk about virtual HBA. So in the earlier figure, we could only see the physical HBA, okay, host-based adapter, that is FC or I2C based host-based adapter. So now we'll talk about virtual HBA. So virtual HBA, when you're talking about virtual HBA, so we in especially the VMware, okay, the V company called VMware, okay, they have actually designed the technology called NPIV, okay, that is New Port ID Virtualization Technology. So by this NPIV technology, what it has done is, uh, provide what do we say, dedicated virtual channels, okay, dedicated virtual channels to each virtual machine, that is end-to-end dedicated virtual channel, that is from a virtual machine to which LUN it is connected to. Okay, so that entire path, that dedication of that entire path is what is called as is provided using the technology called NPIV technology. Okay, so earlier what used to happen is, see, now we can see here is there is blue line, green line which is being connected to the switch. Okay, physical switch, and then there is orange link here. Okay, we can see here that for this blue virtual machine, for this blue virtual machine, that is blue link, a separate physical line is given. For this virtual machine with the green line, a separate dedicated link is given. Okay, we can similarly see that here a separate orange dedicated line is given. Okay, so how this is happening and why it is required is what the question here is. Okay, so earlier for all the virtual machines, through a single physical HBA, okay, through a single physical HBA, it was given access to the different type of storage arrays. But the problem is sometimes when some virtual machines problem faced some problems, say performance issue, or they were saying that there was latency in the retrieval of data, the host-based adapter or the physical network is not able to find out at which place the issue was happening. Okay, so in order to solve such a problem, the VMware came with a concept called NPIV technology. So by NPIV technology, uh, what was the ideology here is give dedicated virtual channels, okay, virtual channels to each virtual machine connected to its LUN, so that if there is a performance issue for a particular virtual machine, it is easy to look up because dedicated channel is there. So if there is a performance issue, say it straight away, we can say, okay, this channel is not working or this channel is overloaded, like that. Okay, so how that dedicated virtual channel is allocated from one virtual machine to its respective LUN. Storage array is basically different types of external devices, and each are identified by unique numbers. Basically, that is what is logical LUN, logical unit numbers. So dedicated LUN to each virtual machine. And how do we give a virtual channel to it? That is using a universal port number, which is given by the name called worldwide name, WWN. Okay, so what do we have here is in the physical switch. Okay, the physical switch, the physical switch is there. Okay, so that physical switch will be connected to multiple virtual HBOs. Multiple means how many virtual machines you are going to host. That many virtual HBAs you are going to connect means that many virtual endports you are going to create, virtual endports you are going to create, and that virtual endpoint, so you are going to identify with the name called unique name with worldwide name, that is WWN. Now what happens here is, whenever this blue link is not working or this virtual machine is facing issue, it is easy to localize that problem and identify why this link is not working, because all virtual machines have separate dedicated virtual channel. Okay, so that is the concept of virtual HBA, and it is coined by the term called NPIV technology. Okay, NPIV technology. Uh, so these virtual channels are given unique name called worldwide name. Okay, unique worldwide name. So it is basically providing dedicated virtual channels to each virtual machines. Okay, each virtual machines with its respective LUN. See here, respective LUN. The LUN are not grouped together. they are segregated according to the allocation in which each virtual machine, that is according to LUN provisioning, means how much the virtual machine requires at LUN. Based on that, a provisioning is given, but it is dedicated like that. Okay. So this also helps in zoning and LUN masking. So that we'll see in the later sessions. Okay. These terminologies enables zoning and LUN masking at VM level. Okay. So we already know that thin provisioning, LUN provisioning, virtual provisioning we have already seen. So now you know about the term. We have come across with the terminologies zoning and LUN masking. So this will cover later, I think, in the security part. Okay. So we have completed virtual NIC, virtual HPA. The last topic in virtual network component is the virtual network component is a virtual switch. So when you're talking about virtual switch, basically it provides the VM network. Okay, it creates the VM network. So this virtual switch also resides in the physical server. Okay, so this is also created and configured using the hypervisor only. Okay, so hypervisor has to exit only, then it can create the virtual machines. And in order to communicate with, or in order to start the communication of this virtual machine based on some common functionality, we have to create a virtual network. So that virtual network is created using virtual switch. Okay, this is also configured using hypervisor. So basically, the virtual switch has MAC address table. As we have already told, the hypervisor, while create powering on the virtual machine, each virtual machine will have unique MAC address and IP address. So so in the virtual network, which are the VMs connected to that virtual network, it should have that is maintained via MAC address table. Okay, so that MAC address table is used for frame forwarding. Okay, frame forwarding. So this MAC address table basically consists of the MAC address and to which virtual switch port it is being connected to. So what is this virtual switch port? We'll see in the following slides. Okay, so just virtual switch port means in a virtual switch, there will be multiple number of ports. Okay, so some ports, it will be one port, it will be connected to the physical NIC, one port it will be connected to the hypervisor, one means there will be multiple ports, and these one of these multiple ports will be connected to the different virtual machines which it is catering to. So the MAC address table will contain the entry of a MAC address and the virtual switch port, means to which virtual switch port or VM switch port to or VM port it is connected to. Okay, so the virtual switch basically does the management of traffic, means either VM can communicate between a VM in the same virtual network, or VM if it wants to communicate with another VM of a different physical server, or if the VM wants to communicate with storage. Okay, we have seen that VM can actually directly access the storage which is it is connected to directly. Okay, so that is basically done via the concept called raw device mapping, which we have seen. Okay, so all these things are through virtual switches. Okay, all these things are through virtual switches. So the main VM traffic is VM to VM within a physical server. Another is VM to the physical network, means VM wants to communicate with another VM which is in a different physical server. The other, that is the hypervisor traffic, which you talk about, is the IP storage, VM migration, and management. So whatever storage accesses are there, that goes via hypervisor kernel. Okay. So if it is hypervisor storage, it will go to physical NIC. But if it is access storage, it will go to a host based adapter. Okay, so all these things are, see, why IP storage is put in virtual switch, because if it is a IP storage, again it will come back to virtual switch itself. Okay, so that is why it is in this under the virtual switch it is written, and VM migration and the management uh, functionalities. Okay, right. So some few scenarios are given here. Okay, so here what we can observe from the figure here is there are multiple physical NICs. Okay, and these so it means a physical server can also have multiple physical NICs, and all these physical NIC may or may not be connected to the virtual switch. So here it is connected to the virtual switches. Okay, so the main advantage here is Suppose if one or two links it is utilizing. So sometimes it is, if it is overburdened or if one link have a failure, in that case it can use the other standby physical NIC link, that is connection between V virtual switch to PNIC, can be used as a new link or a recovery link, okay, when the other link is down, or it might use it for even load balancing. So similarly, when this is like a traffic coming from VM to the virtual switch to the physical switch, but if it is the above, that is a other case, that is the uplink traffic that is coming from physical switch to the virtual switch. The virtual switch does not have control that from where actually the traffic is going to come, whether it is going to come from all of this physical NIC or from only these two physical NIC. That part is controlled by physical switch here. So the downlink traffic, that is the traffic coming from virtual machine to virtual switch, that virtual switch can control to which physical NICs the traffic can go down to the physical switch. But when it is uplink traffic, that is from the physical switch to the virtual switch, the physical switch here is the decider, means it decides how many physical NICs are going to be active at the same time, and whether all of them are going to be running the traffic which is going to be fed to the virtual switch. Okay, so basically the use of multiple NIC is for load balancing and failover. So as I told you, some NIC will be a standby and it will be used only for only if one of the link is having some issue or downtime. Okay. The second scenario is where sometimes, as I told you before, in earlier whatever figure which we have seen, we have seen that all of the virtual switches are connected to the physical NICs. Okay, so that is not a necessity. Sometimes some virtual switches can only be connected to another virtual, only be interconnecting different virtual machines. That's all. It's not connected to a physical analysis. So such a scenario is illustrated here. So whatever traffic which is originating from this virtual machine, sometimes it just it just not connected to a physical NIC. So this is an application where the virtual machine which is being hosted in this virtual switch, okay, this is actually doing a firewall application. So whatever traffic which this VM1 is going to do, going to generate, it will send to this virtual switch, and this virtual switch will push into this virtual machine so that all those traffic can again pass through that firewall application, and which will again feed it to the outside physical server. Okay, so the main importance with the figure here is the virtual switches need not connect, every virtual switch need not connect to the physical NIC. It's based on the applicability. Okay, so this is one case scenario where one virtual machine wants to send a traffic to another physical switch to a physical switch, but it since it is not connected to a physical NIC, it might send it to another virtual machine which is connected to a different virtual switch, and that virtual machine is basically running the firewall application. Okay, so in such scenarios, the virtual switch need not be connected to a physical NIC. The other example scenario here is that is no direct connection is required between virtual switches, means virtual switches need not be connected directly. So here we can see this, to this virtual switch, two VMs are there. To this virtual switch, another only one VM is there. So this VM is common in between. So direct connection is not there between these virtual switches. Okay, and also whatever the communication has to happen, okay, it all have to be encapsulated in Ethernet frames. Okay, so in Ethernet frame, the sender and destinations NICs, that is NICs MAC address and IP address have to be put. Okay, and also one more thing is the physical NICs are not shared between virtual switches. So each virtual switches will have dedicated physical NIC. Means if this physical NIC cannot be given to the virtual switch. Okay, so physical NICs are not shared between the virtual switches. So when we're talking about virtual switch, I told you about the MAC address table. In the MAC address table, we have MAC addresses and virtual switch ports. Okay, so what is that ports? Okay, so virtual switch have basically three different types of ports. Okay, and it has port groups also. Um, So when you're talking about ports, three different ports means one, as I told you, one port will be given to the hypervisor, so that hypervisor get connected. The it can have multiple uplink ports. Okay, so uplink ports, as I told you, uplink traffic means coming from the physical network to the virtual network. So multiple ports means, suppose if that virtual network will is connected to multiple physical NIC, we have seen, right? So multiple uplink ports are given, and there is virtual machine ports. Okay, VM ports. VM ports means this virtual switch is getting connected to virtual machines via virtual NIC. So that virtual NIC is getting connected to these VM ports. Okay, so it's provide connectivity to the virtual NICs. Okay, now we have seen these three different types of ports. That is VM port. VM port means the virtual machine gets connected to this virtual switch via virtual NIC. So that virtual NIC gets connected to this VM port so that it gets connectivity to this virtual switch. The hypervisor kernel port is basically to provide connectivity with the hypervisor. The uplink ports are basically to provide connectivity with the physical NICs, okay, which is connected in turn to the physical network. Okay. So we have something called port groups. Okay, so port groups is basically uh, it is actually defined by the network administrator. Okay, so based on some administrator policies, like some security policies. Say suppose if some virtual machines are explicitly under some security policy, say they actually, there might be a chance that some of the VM might start wrong operating system might be there. So in that case they will be defined under security policies, and some other will be defined only for authentication policies. So based on different types of network policies, okay, we can group these virtual machines, okay. So that grouping is basically called as VM port group. So there are multiple port groups. Okay, so virtual NICs can be connected to this based on some uniform network policy. So common network policy will be grouped here. Some will be grouped under security, some virtual machines will be only accessing database. So based on that policy, it will be grouped together like that. Okay, so security, load balancing, and failover decides how to group the virtual machines. Okay, and as already discussed, the management software helps in easy reconfiguration of this VM port. So if we want to reconfigure this VM which is connected to this port group 1 to port group 2, that configuration is also easy, because it can be done easily via management software. Okay, management software. Okay, so this is all about the virtual switch, ports, and port groups. Moving ahead, we have actually two different types of virtual switches. Okay, one is standard virtual switch and distributed virtual switch. So standard virtual switch is out of the topic here. Okay, so we only have distributed virtual switch to be discussed. So from the figure itself, we can see here, if there is a need where you want to segregate or combine two different physical servers, so that both of that physical servers network resources can be shared by the VMs which are being hosted in those individual physical servers. In such cases, we can actually combine these two virtual switches which are hosted in two different physical servers, and start a distributed virtual switch. Okay, so we can see here, whatever the physical network which they are sharing, if they combine these virtual switches, it will give to a distributed virtual switch. Okay, so aggregation of multiple virtual switches, okay, across multiple physical servers. Okay, that is basically the concept here in distributed virtual switch. Okay, so the distributed virtual switch here acts like a single virtual switch. Okay, as a single virtual switch, and this is basically this combination of combining two virtual switches and presenting it as one single virtual switch. It is all done by the management software which is installed in the server. Okay, So this helps actually basically in better utilization of resources, okay, and also the when we are talking about management server, so when the migration is happening, okay, when the migration is happening, it is also made sure that the network policies are also adhered to. So we can see here in the first one, and that is the left hand side, there are two virtual machines which are connected to A because they are grouped under one port group. Another after B in C, we can see another two virtual machines. So when they are migrated to another that is where two virtual switches are combined, what we can observe here is that same network policy is also adopted in the new distributed virtual switch also. Okay, so finally, this helps in easier configuration of virtual machine. Okay, which are sharing the same physical network. So it is basically simplifying the configuration and easing of the administration part of these virtual machines. Okay, with this it eases the administration part of these virtual machines. Okay, okay. So uh, virtual switch, we have discussed a lot about virtual switch now. We have discussed about different types of ports. Okay, we have discussed about distributed virtual switch. Okay, so now we'll move on to the physical network components. Okay, physical network components. The first one is the NIC. So this is similar to what we have discussed for the virtual NIC. So physical NIC basically it's like we don't it doesn't have we have already said that virtual NICs have uh, unique MAC address and IP addresses, but physical NIC does not have unique MAC address or IP address. Okay, it's so that is why we say that it is a inter switch link. So this statement is very important. Physical NIC acts like an inter switch link between the virtual switch and the physical Ethernet switch. Okay, so whatever uh, the traffic is there from virtual machine or hypervisor, everything is redirected here to the physical NIC. Okay. So as I told you, it's called referred to as interswitch links because it does not have IP address, unique MAC address or IP address to it. Okay. But the virtual NICs have physical unique MAC address and IP address. So they are actually addressable from network, means we can easily identify which VM is causing this much traffic or some security policy is being violated, so that VM can be easily identified. Okay, okay. So the main thing here is when you're talking about the NIC, um, physical NIC, whatever data it is going to transfer from the virtual switch to the physical switch, it's all going to be in Ethernet frame. Okay, that is we have to make sure. Okay. So the other physical adapters which we have used in this network virtualization are host-based adapters. Okay, this we have already discussed, host-based adapters and converged network adapters. So as I told you, host-based adapters basically they actually provide or whatever the storage access is coming from the hypervisor kernel, okay, to the FC storage or iSCSI storage, the host-based adapters come into picture. So we have already seen what is a virtual host-based adapter, what is NPIV technology, what is a physical host-based. So this is physical host-based adapters which we are discussing here. So when you're discussing about the iSCSI host-based adapter, okay, so it basically have two things, that is iSCSI initiator. Okay, so if it is coming from a hypervisor kernel, so hypervisor kernel will have this iSCSI initiator. So this iSCSI initiator basically whatever the request is going to come, that is SCSI commands which are going to come to access the SCSI storage arrays. Okay, the all those commands have to be first and turned into SCSI iSCSI frame. Okay, that processing is there. That is what here. All this explanation is about the processing which is required. So the SCSI input outputs have to be converted to iSCSI frame, and then they have to be encapsulated into Ethernet frame, which is going to be sent out from the host-based adapter to the physical switch over internet. Okay, so that is the main thing about iSCSI host-based adapter. We have the fiber channel host-based adapter. So here also, whatever hypervisor storage access is being initiated from the hypervisor kernel, all those storage SCSI commands that has to be converted to FC storage systems. Okay, so we have to convert into FC frame, and these FC frame are then encapsulated into the Ethernet frames, which will be pushed over to the uh, fiber channel over Ethernet. That type of physical switch, that type of enabled physical switch will push it and give access to the FC storage type or iSCSI storage array. Okay, so we have discussed that converged network adapter acts like host-based adapter when the hypervisor kernel is requesting for FC type storage or iSCSI type storage. But if it is only an IP storage, the CNA will act like a physical NIC. Okay, so here the hypervisor recognizes it as FC hyper HBA and as an NIC. Okay, uh, so NIC when NIC is basically to start the that is to prove the link from virtual to the physical switch, and FCHBA so that the hypervisor can access a FC storage. So this we have already seen in detail. What is CNA? Okay, when does CNA come into picture? When does HBA come into picture with a detailed diagram? Okay, I hope you recall. All right. So next, we'll discuss about here VLAN and vSAN both are there. Okay, so the topic here is only to discuss VLAN. Okay, so the other that is the network management traffic that we will discuss in the next class. So I'll just finish off by giving a brief intro about the VLAN. Okay, okay. So basically, um, VLAN, when we say VLAN, okay, uh, what we can, an easiest example which you can relate is the LAN network, okay, the LAN cable which is provides internet in a department. Okay, we can say that the same LAN provides internet for the computer science department. Okay, so but whatever communication is happening between inside the IT department and inside the CSC department, that should not overlap or it should not leak. Okay, so what we have done here is a single physical LAN is there that we have segregated and divided into or given it to two departments where the interdepartment communication can happen efficiently and isolation is also there. Okay, so that is nothing but virtual local area network. Okay, VLAN. So VLAN is basically uh, a LAN, a physical LAN is there. Okay, physical LAN is there. We are going to combine or segregate that land to provide virtual network, okay, virtual switches, and that enables communication among group of nodes. Okay, so regarding of their location in the network, so that is VLAN. Okay, um, so the main benefit of virtual LAN obviously is uh, broadcast activity that is isolated. Okay, it improves network performance because another LAN we don't have to again give it for CSE. Both of them share the same line, but isolation is also there. Okay, so it simplifies management, and we can the increased security levels are also can be implemented. Okay, so obviously this reduces capital expenditure also. Okay, so these are the advantages of virtual LAN, VLAN. Okay, now how to configure this VLAN? Okay, so basically we can say that each a group of system, okay, which are connected to a logical VLAN. That is here one is ICT, one is CSC department. Both of them can be given logical IDs, that is VLAN IDs. Okay, so that their communication does not get mixed up. Okay, so each VLAN is identified by a unique number called VLAN ID. Okay, so already the hypervisor comes built up is built in with a pool of virtual LAN IDs. So either we can use that virtual LAN IDs to allocate it to that group of virtual machines which are going to be grouped in single group. Okay, so that is also possible. Okay, so now how does so as I was telling you about configuring VLAN, okay, we have something called as how does that communication happens? How does that isolation happen? Okay, we have given that VLAN ID. So where are you going to put that VLAN ID is what we are going to see. Okay, so configuring that VLAN ID, that is done through something called as VLAN trunking. Okay, so we can see here that uh, see VLAN 10, 20, 30, and there is again VLAN 10, 20. So this is basically VLAN IDs. Okay. So in VLAN 10, there will be, say, suppose 5 systems. This is VLAN ID which is connected to another switch. Okay. But they are of similar functionality. So they want to communicate. So initially, what was planned is, okay, initially what was planned is for each virtual ID, okay, for each virtual ID, what we'll do is we'll connect, we'll give dedicated lines, okay, dedicated single what do we say, connections. Okay, so suppose virtual LAN here, VLAN 10 have 5 VMs in that. Okay, virtual LAN 20, that is virtual, that is another virtual group which have ID 20. They have again, say, some 20 VMs on it, and again 30 will also have some uh, say 50 VMs on it. Similarly, same number of VMs are also hosted in these group, but they are connected to a different switch. Okay, this is a switch, this is different switch. Now, how this a communication happens here is, initially what was thought is, how many VMs are there? All those VMs has to be connected to the same virtual LAN IDs with different VMs, okay, of the same virtual IDs. So when so many connections are there, that is not practically feasible, and it also increases capital expenditure, right? So that is what interconnection of VLAN 10. So here we are talking only about, this is the most abstract view. Okay. So here what they're told is VLAN 10, 20, 30 are there in switch 1, VLAN 10, 20, 30 another group. Okay, with in switch 2. So how to provide interconnectivity by having dedicated links. But what about if we have 100 VLANs, or say tens and thousands of VLANs? Okay, in that case, that providing multiple providing dedicated link for multiple switches for multiple VLAN IDs, it's going to be very costly and it is not feasible. So how it was done? Through what is called as, what we say is trunk link. Okay, VLAN trunking. VLAN trunking means, um, there is going to be a single connection. Okay, so here there are two switches. No matter how many virtual VLANs you have, okay, how many VLANs you have, unique VLANs you have. So if one VLAN, if two VMs of same VLANs want to communicate, but they are connected to two different switches, how it will happen? Through something called as trunk link. Trunk link means these two switches will only be connected via a single link, but this single link will carry multiple VLAN traffic. Okay, multiple VLAN traffic, and this single connection, if it has a port, it is also called as trunk port. Okay, so this trunk port will also handle different VLAN traffic, that is multiple VLAN traffic. Okay, now where does here the VLAN tagging comes? Okay, VLAN tagging. Yeah, so how does, if it is a single connection, so there can be an overlap between different VLANs. So I'll just tell you the advantages of VLAN trunking is, obviously the number of cabling has reduced. Okay, so that is one of the advantages here. So it reduces the management complexity also. Okay, and this eliminates the need for dedicated network link. Okay, so but even though only a single link is given for, so that it will enable multiple VLAN traffic, how does it differentiate between each of these VLAN? Okay, different VLAN traffic. So that is defined by the term called VLAN tagging. So VLAN tagging is, as we already told, each virtual VLAN will have ID, unique ID. So that ID has to be prefixed or inserted into the Ethernet frame. So whenever an Ethernet frame is given, so VLAN 10 wants to communicate with VLAN 10 of connected to another different switch. What it has to do is create an Ethernet frame, put all its data which it wants to communicate, but and insert the VLAN ID also, so that it does not get mixed with other VLAN traffic. Okay, so that is the concept called VLAN tagging. That is, insert the tag field in the Ethernet frame and send it to the trunk link. And before it reaches the destination, it identifies which is a tag field, what is a tag it has inserted in the Ethernet frame. Okay, it identifies that particular VLAN, remove that tag bit and send only that Ethernet frame to that particular VLAN. Okay, so this is the VLAN tagging. So I hope the VLAN concept, VLAN trunking, trunk link, trunk port, VLAN tagging, and useful example that is if in a building there are multiple floors and each floors have people of IT department, people will have HR department, each floor have people and they want to communicate how it is to happen. Okay, so they will be communicated to the switches at each floor, but how that communication in between can happen efficiently, that is using trunk link. And when you're using trunk link, you have to add the VLAN ID to it. And when you're adding that VLAN ID to the Ethernet frame, that is called as VLAN tagging. Okay. So I hope the VLAN tagging concept, the virtual LAN concept, is easily interpretable to you. Okay, so same thing is given pictorially here. Okay, VLAN traffic here. So what we can see here is this is switch. You can say this is building in all of the building. This is first floor. This is second floor. Okay, we can see here yellow. So this is yellow. So this both of them belong to the same virtual LAN. Okay, so instead of providing earlier, what we used to do is give dedicated links. Okay, so dedicated links is not feasible. So now what happened here is provide trunk link. Trunk link means you add the VLAN ID to the frame. Okay, so we can see here in these each frames the colors you can see at the end, that is VLAN tag ID. So this is orange, this is green and yellow. So we can see here green, orange, yellow tagging is done. So a single kind of communication line is there between these multiple switches. And by just seeing the tag IDs or VLAN tagging, the process, okay, we can differentiate that multiple means one single link can enable multiple VLAN communication. Okay, multiple VLAN communication that we can see here, VLAN 10, 20, and 30. Okay, so this is the VLAN scenario. So this vSAN, we don't have it. Okay, so this completes the VLAN concept. Okay, so now the last topic in virtualized data center, that is the networking part, we have the network management. Okay, so next we'll start off with the network traffic management. This I'll continue in the next class. Okay, so thank you everyone. I hope these topics are very easy. Okay, and I have already shared the link. Okay, I have already shared the link in the Teams group, so you can have a look into it. So these slides I have downloaded from SlideShare. Okay, so you can also use them. Okay,